Welcome. Okay, first things first. Last episode, I didn't say Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett, and that was my error. The ministry didn't need to give me lashings for it, although they did. I misrespected a fantastic thinker and researcher. So, Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett and her book, How Emotions Are Made. Continuing with emotions today. Hello, we're going to continue talking about what are emotions. We've got parts, we've got those three concepts, we've got the body, we've got the setting and the environment, and then we've got the concept of what those three things are as the foundation for emotions. I'm going to look at it from a different lens today. What do they do? And I think this is a very useful one, and this is mostly two things that they really do, what emotions do. We could break it maybe into three. It doesn't really matter. Two or three, or it's two, and one of them kind of goes into two subcategories. So the first things emotions do is they motivate us. There's some sort of, if this concept and this body sensation and this setting win out, that takes the wheel, then the brain's like, oh, okay, cool, and here's all the things that go with that. This is what worked last time. Here's a bunch of endorphins. Here's a bunch of action plans, etc. Here's the file, Mr. President, on everything we're going to be doing with this emotion. And you've got all your soldiers lined up, so to speak. They're trying to get you to do something. So if you have fear emotion, these are the things that come up for you. Now, notice there, it's like already it's going to be split and be individualized. People say the fight or flight response, which is already broken down into the fight, flight, or freeze response. The fight, flight, freeze, or appease response. What that actually means is going to be different for different settings. Of course, there's going to be, patterns in how different people do it, but that's what it will do. Coming back to emotions as a motivator for some sort of action, that's primary function, and all emotions will have this, as we've defined them so far. So if you are, angry, that is typically there's something wrong. The expectation wasn't there. There's this is how things ought to be. It's not that way. The environment should be this way, says my brain, and then it's this way. That bad. Let me change this thing. I was walking, I stubbed my toe. Dang table. Who put it there? Me. But I shouldn't have done that. Or and then it quickly can go a whole bunch of different places. But that's essentially what emotions do. We can go into an entire episode on going through this with various emotions, but for now we'll just look at it there. I think DBT has a lot of ideas on this particular topic. The action urge of individual emotions. So that one's a good source of information if you're interested further. Second thing the emotions do, second and third, is communicate. And the communication falls into two categories, or two and three, would be communicate to others and communicate to self. So let's start with the second one first. So communicating to self. Well, that doesn't make any sense. I am self. It's like, well, if you're following along, if our emotions are just parts of us, they are just useful tools that worked yesterday, and we're going to use them again today. There's nothing to stop a part of us that is believes in Y, and then another part that believes in X, and those things can be totally opposite to each other. And what this would mean in this context, then, is emotions communicate to us. There's a dialect. That's what DBT means, dialectical behavior therapy. There's believing opposite things at the same time. How does that how does the brain function this way? One of the primary things of emotions is they're communicating to self. Which one is going to win? If you think about, this would be a good time to introduce a metaphor. There's the brain is like, and this is one of hundreds of metaphors I'll use. It's like a bus, and it's got all these passengers on it, and the driver. The driver is the person or the part that wins. That's the one that's going to take the action. That's the one that wins the mental vote that the brain chooses for this moment. And it's going to be anger. I stub my toe, kick over the thing. Arrgh, anger won. This is like Inside Out, when each part starts taking over. And that can be very chaotic. When they communicate, the brain essentially, I mean, it's a weird mathematical thing, but it's like the free energy principle, if you want to look that one up, prefers non-chaos. And so it wants things to be predictable. So when there's all this dialect, it solves it through, hey, this is what's going on. I predict that this is what's going on. Hey, I predict this is what's going on. Which one you're looking for? The brain will look for more cues in the environment to prove one way or the other. And again, there's so many errors in that, but that is communicating to self. It helps us choose which tool is going to be most useful for the job at hand. And yeah, second thing of the communication, communicates to others. We are very social creatures. We develop language, emotional language, facial language, nonverbal communications very quickly within a group. And smiling means this, or talking this way, or this kind of inflection, or laughing when you're nervous, or laughing when uproarious, or laughing when someone falls down, or laughing at pain, or laughing in the face of death. Not only laughing, that would be the external thing, but if you just believed in one of those things, and somebody started laughing because somebody fell down, and everybody else was like, oh, I'm laughing because that's not what laughing means to me in my way of thinking and in my tribe. Oh, what's going on here? They're not really communicating to us. There's a mismatch in the expectation that the brain has for the response and the action that they're seeing in other people. We're very aware of this. If you look at anthropologists and sociologists, there's a lot of experiments and stuff on breaking these social norms and these expectations and what it looks like. And it can be silly or funny. The one that comes up for me in my class was, and he was talking about this, and it's like, and this is only for the men. You go to a men's restroom, there's a bunch of urinals, and you can't do this in one. There's only two. You got to do like 5 or more. There's an order, a pecking order-ish of where you go of those 5 stalls and of those 5 urinals. And if there's no one there, it's sort of a free-for-all. You generally don't pick the end ones, but you probably don't pick the middle one either. Leaves position 2 and 4 most likely. That one's not really the point. The big one, though, the big rule is if they're all empty, you choose 2, 3, or 4, and then another person comes in, they don't go right next to you. They choose. If you're in 4, they'll choose 1 or 2. If you're in 2, they'll choose 4 or 5. That's the rule. And if you break that rule, or if somebody break that rule on you, it can feel really weird. Like, that's not normal. What's going on here? Like, there's a whole bunch of perfectly normal, usable urinals. Why are you trying to pee right next to me? Is sort of the automatic response. Nobody taught us. Nobody said these are the things. But that is often and of course this isn't always. This is just often the case. And the idea here is to look at the social expectations, which is the concepts, which is that third part of what emotions are. Break it, and then all of a sudden there's something going on. I'm communicating in a way like, hey, this is what I'm doing here, and I'm breaking a conceptual rule. There's generally an emotional reaction. It doesn't have to be large. It just could be like, what's that guy doing? That could be it. It could just be all the way up to, outrage or anything else. Generally speaking, when an expectation is broken, anger is the response to that. I'm walking up this path. I'm expecting it to be clear sailing. There's a boulder in the path. I get angry. Anger gives my body and my mind the emotional energy I need to solve this problem, to get around the boulder, to move the boulder, to break the boulder, to whatever, to go along my way. And often, well, I'm going to do an entire episode, thanks to the ministry, aye, sirs, don't hit me, on this type of thing, on what do they actually do and how can they, how does anger specifically come about? And we'll do anger and fear and curiosity and some others. Okay, so that is what emotions do. They give us energy. They motivate us to some sort of action that preconceived concept of what this setting and this body state means. If X and Y happens, then Z is the thing that comes afterwards. Okay, that happens. There's a tiger, and then I'm walking around here, and I'm alone. I should, run. I should pet the tiger. I mean, whatever your brain came up with, it'll give you that energy to do that again. These are learned. These are formed. I'm going to make a lot of people angry, but these are all the way down formed. All the fear emotions, all the anger emotions, sadness emotions. These are just things that happen, and we have to figure out what their meanings are. Infants in the womb, even, like, they might have what looks like an emotional response. Their body is acting in some sort of way. Their heart rate increases, whatever neural activity increases to whatever. Great. That's one of the bodies doing the body thing. That doesn't actually mean anything yet. It's not a full-on emotion. There's no concept. You have to build what this concept does first. You don't know what vision is until you really learn, and your brain puts those little tiny pieces together way pre-conscious, to be able to see into, hey, black is black, white is white, red is red, lines are lines, three-dimensional things are three-dimensional, things that are closer to me are large, and things that further are smaller. Like, all of those are pre-conscious. Especially a little bit of a rabbit hole, but like looking at spatial distance and art. If you think about it, it's like, yeah, things that are closer are larger. Why did that take so long to figure out for artists? To put on a 3D image onto a two-dimensional space, why are the things in the back as large as the things in the front? Or making that difference. It took the brain a lot of time to figure those things out. Symbolism. There has to be this language, this agreement that, oh, these are the things that are happening, because in reality, this is just a two-dimensional object. No, that is a little tiny guy way over here and a big guy right here. They're the same distance apart or away because they're on a two-dimensional space. We've agreed that this is an illusion, and what we're really looking at here. And it allows us to communicate visually. And it's a really cool thing. That one will hopefully spark some conversations. Okay, this has been a message from the ministry. What do emotions do? They motivate some sort of action, behavior. They communicate, and they to ourselves and to others. That is the point of what emotions are. See you guys next time. Great chatting with you. Hope you have a good one.